What can you infer about the political context of Lincoln's second inaugural address based on evidence from the text? In this lesson, you will learn how to make inferences by examining key phrases and clues within a text. Let's review. After having already read Lincoln's second inaugural address, you know that this address was a speech given by U.S. President Abraham Lincoln. You also know that it was delivered shortly after he was re-elected to his second term as president. In the speech, Lincoln discusses the Civil War that is coming to an end, how slavery was its root cause, and how the country must heal and unify as a nation. Let's also review what good readers do. Good readers closely examine key elements of a text. They do this by stopping to ask themselves questions as they read. The process of thinking through difficult questions helps readers develop analytical thinking skills. In this lesson, we will look for clues in which to draw inferences from Lincoln's second inaugural address. An inference is a conclusion you arrive at after thinking about the clues in a text. Here are the steps we are going to take. Look for key phrases and clues about events in the text. Ask yourself, why are these phrases so important? Take notes about what you can infer from these important clues. First, let's take a look at key phrases and clues about events in the text. We're going to focus in on paragraph 2 because here Lincoln gives some details and insights into how the country got to where they were at the time of the speech and who played what role. Let's reread paragraph 2. On the occasion corresponding to this 4 years ago, all thoughts were anxiously directed to an impending civil war. All dreaded it, all sought to avert it. Let's highlight this mention of the war and how people felt about it. That seems important. While the inaugural address was being delivered from this place, devoted altogether to saving the Union without war, insurgent agents were in the city seeking to destroy it without war, seeking to dissolve the Union and divide effects by negotiation. Here we see a mention of opposing sides, so let's highlight the phrase, saving the Union without war. Insurgent agents were in the city seeking to destroy it without war. Now, the last sentence says, both parties deprecated war, but one of them would make war rather than let the nation survive, and the other would accept war rather than let it perish. And the war came. Both parties deprecated war, and then it repeats the second idea we highlighted when it says, one of them would make war rather than let the nation survive, and the other would accept war rather than let it perish. So that also seems like a key phrase in this paragraph. So as you can see, in this step we found and marked clues that seemed important because they explained how people felt, described action, or were repetitious. Highlighting text reminds us that we want to go back and take a closer look at those key phrases. Now that we've found some key phrases, you can ask yourself, why are these phrases so important? The first clue seems to be important because Lincoln is stating that the intention of the country as a whole was to avoid the war at all costs. Nobody wanted war. Now look at what we highlighted in sentence 3. Lincoln at first doesn't call out the opposition as a whole. Instead, he mentions some insurgent agents as the instigators, which sound like a small group of rebels, probably politicians and others with power or influence, in the city seeking to divide the country through negotiation. We can infer that by using words with negative connotations, such as destroy and dissolve, Lincoln is saying that divisive rebels were seeking to destroy the Union. Now let's look at the importance of the final sentence. After he repeats that both parties disapproved of the war, he says one of them would make war and the other would accept war. He uses the word make to show action given by one side, and accept to show action was received by the other. Here Lincoln is blaming the opposition for starting the war. He's reminding the audience of its origins. We can infer that Lincoln wants both sides to remember that although one party is responsible for making war, neither side wanted the war to come. Finally, let's take notes about the inferences we've made. From the first section, we pointed out that 4 years prior to this speech, everyone dreaded the idea of war breaking out. I'm going to write, everyone was anxious and fearful about the war. Next, Lincoln blames insurgents for wanting to destroy the Union through negotiation. He uses harsh language to describe these instigators. I'm going to write, malicious insurgents had divisive plans. Finally, he cites responsibility for making war. I'm going to write, although one side is responsible for making war, neither party wanted it. Now that you have some notes on inferences you've made, you'll be able to refer back to them later. Here are the steps we took in order to make inferences about Lincoln's second inaugural address. First, we looked at key phrases and clues about events in the text. Then, ask yourself, why are these phrases so important? 3. We took notes about what we could infer from these important clues. Now we've completed all 3 steps. In this lesson, you have learned how to make inferences by examining key phrases and clues within a text.